idea of pussy, or the idea of pussy. A Mexican is a Mexican is a Mexican. Take her out back, we boys figured, then hand on the titties. Put it in her coin box, put it in her cornhole, grab a hold of that braid, rub that calico. You can find that on page 39 of the book called Out of Darkness, which you can find at Hudson Bend Middle School and Bee Cave Middle School. It means to have anal sex. I do not want my children to learn about anal sex in middle school. I have never had anal sex. I don't want to have anal sex. I don't want my kids having anal sex. I want you to start focusing on education and not public health.
Stone, you're on.
And of course they cut the mic, that's it, right? And here's the thing. You notice in those two examples?
The inclusion there, right?
I'm sorry?
Where's the inclusion there?
Yeah, well, that's my point. You just about to make it, right? That, did you notice? The rapist is an African-American man. How would you feel being a Latino or a Mexican kid in that class? When it comes to pussy, right? A Mexican is a Mexican. These are white liberal authors writing this way about sex. To be inclusive? I mean, it's stunning. The level of racism is stunning. Watch this. This woman in Fairfax, Virginia, after watching that video, wanted to see what was going on at her kid's middle school. Here's what happened. These are the two books she came home with. Both of those books, entitled for readers as young as 9 and 10, actively promote pedophilia. Young boys having sex with adult men, with pictures and words. Watch.
After seeing a September 9th school board meeting in Texas on pornography in the schools, I decided to check the titles at my child's school, Fairfax High School. The books were available, and we checked them out. Both of these books include pedophilia, sex between men and boys. Both books describe different acts. One book describes a 4th grade boy performing oral sex on an adult male. The other book has detailed illustrations of a man having sex with a boy. The illustrations include fellatio, sex toys, masturbation, and violent nudity. Pedophilia here. From the author, Maya Kobabe, quote, "I can't wait to have your cock in my mouth. I am going to give you the blowjob of your life, and then I want you inside me," end quote. From the author, Jonathan Evison, "What if I told you I touched another guy's dick? What if I told you I sucked it? I was 10 years old, but it's true. I sucked Doug Goebel's dick, the real estate guy, and he sucked mine too." This is not an oversight at Fairfax High School.
Sorry. There are children in the audience here.
Do not.
You hear the school board members now? There are children in the audience. This book is very, very dangerous. It was written by an African-American transgender person. And it's all about an incestuous relationship between him and his younger brother, in which he coerced his brother to have sex with him, which he considers to be liberating the boy. This is very interesting because the governor of Iowa, who's been trying to fight this really, really bad, she got sick and tired of being cornered by journalists who would say to her, "Ma'am, why do you hate books? Why do you hate books? Governor, you tell us why you hate books." So she took this book with her, and the next time somebody cornered her, she opened it and read it. Watch this.
I'd be happy to read it, and then maybe your listeners can decide if they feel whether it's appropriate or not to have young kids have access to a book that says, "You told me to take off my pajama pants," which I did. You then took off your shorts, followed by your boxers. There you stood in front of me, fully erected, and said, "Taste it." At first, I laughed and refused, but then you said, "Come on, Matt, taste it. This is what boys like us do when we like each other." I finally listened to you. The whole time I knew it was wrong, not because I was having sexual intercourse with a guy, but that you were my family. I only did that for about 45 seconds before you had me stop. Then you got down on your hands and knees and told me to close my eyes. And that's when you began oral sex on me as well.
Shocking when you stop and think about that. Rape, incestuous rape. Pedophilia is illegal in 50 states. If I showed those pictures to the kid across the fence from me, I'm going to jail for 20 years. And there seems to be no end to what they're able to do to your kids. All right, it gets a little bit more disturbing. There's the book. This is a superintendent of a public school this is his recommended reading for pre-pubescent adults. That book is in there for kids 9 and 10. When he was asked about it, his response was, I consider the pictures to be artistic, not pornographic. It's like watching a statue, looking at the naked statue of David by Michelangelo. There's nothing pornographic about it. You tell me, is this pornographic or art? The underage children having oral sex on adults. Here's the pictures of the cartoon book, right? Bottom right-hand corner, adult male having sex with a boy. Above that, more underage oral sex. 2 boys having sex. Waukesha, Wisconsin, down the road from me.
I don't want to ban books. However, I do think there are books in our school libraries which should require parental consent. An 11-year-old can walk into or get on their iPad or even walk into a library, check out a book called Later Gator. Imagine your 11-year-old child or grandchild reading this. I like to put on a show. So not only do you have to be hung, talented, long-lasting, multiple comer, but you have to be okay effing a sexy 18-year-old friend.
Do you think you have to? People.
Wait, this is in our schools. Our kids are reading this, and you're going to tell me I can't read it to you because it's inappropriate? It's being broadcast.
Everybody, settle down, please.
But that just means more of it to go around.
Oh, down.
The first guy asked her to pass on a message about his big cock. Isn't that charming?
Okay.
I'm kind of wired. I just gave Doug his first blowjob. It was going away. It was his going away present. It wasn't all that fun for me, but I think he really liked it. But my jaw got really tired. But I was like, this is Doug and I love him. Did you spit or swallow? I swallowed, but I don't think it's, I'm going to do that next time. Doug tried to go down on me. Geez, that sounds...
You got enough. This image, yes?
How much more of what we're going to be talking or sharing or different topics? Because
this is
we've
done.
already seen.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
But
With all due respect, there's a reason I show the pictures that I do, because each picture has a different story here. I would not.
We know.
But not everybody does. You do. With all due respect.
I mean, right now we know what.
I'm almost done anyway.
You don't know what you're gonna
worse.
I trust me. I understand what you're saying. But if it's bothersome to you, step out. We'll be done in a moment. But there's a reason for each of these pictures I'm showing you. I'm just telling you this now. This is not something I'm doing because I enjoy it. Because there's a reason for it. This particular because here, give me one example I'm talking about. Do you see as we go through those particular series of pictures? Do you see who always is the enemy? It's the family. You notice that? It's the stepdad that's the rapist. It's the older brother who's the rapist, right? It's performing oral sex on your younger brother. What they're doing here, beyond the sexuality, is they're using these images to threaten and bully kids into believing that their parents are the problem. This is a horrible video. This is I believe the last one I'm going to show, but it's horrible, right? But I want to remind you about what the parents are getting here. This video was created for 5, 6, and 7-year-olds in Connecticut. It was found in public kindergarten classes all across the state. Watch the culmination of what I'm saying here now.
Some children are afraid that their mom and dad will beat them, or that their parents will fight. Other children have experienced an adult touching or putting their penis in the child's private parts or mouth.
5-year-olds being shown that. Again, who's going to beat them up? Who's going to put their penises? What does this do to children as young as 5? I know it's horrible to see that. Our kids are seeing it. To see it, you got to see that horror, right? I get intellectually that we understand it. I get that. But we've got to do something about this, and you have to see how bad it is. I think I have one more video, just a short one. Yeah, it is. This is Australia. There's a reason I'm going to show you this too, because not only are they portraying the kids as, portraying adults as victimizers, they're then sending those children back home to embarrass and humiliate their parents. How? Like this.
It is a note from a constituent who says, "Hi Bernie, this is a worksheet that my 10-year-old daughter brought home from school," and it includes a photo of the worksheet. "Part of her homework was to discuss with her father his erections and ejaculation. I find this very disturbing and sickening, as indeed do I have to say. I have complained to the school and was told it was just part of the curriculum. Can you advise who else I should make a complaint to?" Well, I could go on for days who she could complain to. "My daughter still plays with dolls and writes letters to the tooth fairy. There is no way any little girl should be told to ask these questions." Well, so say all of us. What the hell is going on in this state when 10-year-old girls are told to go home and talk to your father about his erections and about his ejaculations? What the hell is going on here?
Can you imagine if you had your 10-year-old daughter, the love of your life, the apple of your eye, come home to you as a father and ask you that? I mean, do you understand what they're doing here with these last two series of images? They're sending these kids back. We're not very far away from the moment when kids start reporting their parents for not being sexually accepting enough. And I'll tell you what the next thing is going to be. Within the next 5 years, public schools are going to call for sexual emancipation of your kids. In other words, regardless of what you think about sex, the public schools are going to give your children permission and encourage them to have sex with anybody of any age, if they just feel like it's important to do so. This is where we end. This is not a pornographic video in any way, shape, or but this allows me to make a final statement. All right, this is the San Francisco Gay Choir, and I want you to listen to what they're singing.
We'll convert your children, happens bit by bit, quietly and subtly, and you will barely notice it. You can keep them from disco. What about San Francisco? Make them wear pleated pants, we don't care. We're coming for them. We're coming for your children. We'll try a little, we'll convert your children.
And I want you to know as I end this presentation that it is exactly 10 years ago today that Barack Obama won his second election for president and no longer had to ever run for office again. Remember, Obama, all throughout his first presidency, was adamant that marriage was between a man and a woman. Immediately after that, he had a conversion, and within 6 months, we had gay marriage. Whatever you think about that issue, that's not my point. My point is, in 1 decade, since that moment, 1 decade, now the San Francisco Gay Choir can seriously sing about converting, that's the word, converting your children. But if you have a 7-year-old daughter who's gender confused and you take her to your priest or your psychiatrist, the state could take that daughter. If Granholm has her way, the state could take that doctor from you. If you have a 10-year-old boy who thinks he might be gay and you try to get him conversion therapy or deal with that issue psychologically, the state could take your kid from you. In Ohio, 2 years ago, 14-year-old girl decided she was a man. The parents refused to give her transition surgery. A district judge removed the child from the home, gave her the surgery, and forced the parents to pay for it. 10 years, we went from not even thinking about gay marriage to a situation now where all the rights and privileges are on that side, not yours. That's how serious this is. And at the end of the day, these aspects are more important even than the vulgarity. Why we walk through the presentation that way, to see ultimately what the real agendas are. Now, I'm going to ask Robert to come up here and make a few quick comments. I'll take questions from it. I promise this gentleman here, he can go first, right? Right there in the black hat.
Well, you kind of answered my question.
Okay, good.
These kids, you know, if
Well, no, we're gonna get to it in just a second. But if you wanna go, I'll let you go first. And one final thought from me is, there are no safe spaces in your public schools. Even if you don't live in Detroit or Ann Arbor, this is gonna come up. I'll send you the slides if you take a card. Promise you, if you look in your school's middle and elementary school, you're gonna see all those books. Your kids are already being exposed to this wherever you are. There's no safe space in your public schools. This is my earnest plea to you. If you care about the public schools, honestly, I don't. There are safer, more efficient, more religious ways to educate your kids. But if you deeply believe that a public school system is necessary, the one and only thing you can do to fix this is walk out until they fix it. The only thing these Marxists care about more than your kids is money. Imagine this. 60 million kids go to school next September. Let's say 3 million moms get together collectively across the country, and their kids are signed up for public school, and then the first day of class, those moms walk 3 million kids across the country out. The whole system will collapse. You will force change. If you care about the schools, then you better consider that, because there is not much else you can do.
Okay. We're going to take Q&A in a second, but first, I know Darlene had mentioned that she would give Tony a moment to talk about his congressional campaign. Tony, would you like to come forward and talk about it?
Absolutely. Hi everyone, I'm Tony Marson,